I'm going to do all the talking. So we're in there. Okay, so we only did one slide because we figured we're not going to spend time sitting here clicking through slides because we're not very good at it. So the first thing was, why did we develop the program? We developed this program because the price of textbooks has increased dramatically in recent years, placing a financial burden on our students. We're in a unique situation where we're a military school, so their uniforms and everything alone cost them $8,000. That's on top of tuition and books. So this has led our students to not purchasing their textbooks or trying to get them through resource sharing, which is Pascal, our statewide delivery system, or through ILL. And they've also even tried tricking the library into buying them for them because we don't buy required textbooks. So the program was developed, and our goal was to help faculty adopt open educational resources, affordable education resources, and open access resources. And we wanted to provide day one access to the course materials. And we wanted to do this with the library taking the most responsibility, because especially when it comes to electronic items, faculty will get something and then it'll break, and who do they call? Us. But we can't fix it because we didn't buy it, so then they get mad. So we figured if we take all that burden onto us, that reduces their stress. They'll be more open to using this, and we can watch through different things like trends through ILL. What are our students asking for? Which classes are they asking for? So then we can target those things and those classes and try and get it to be open resource because we see there's a need from our students. So our approach was to put it out there that when faculties are looking for new textbooks, that they come to the library and talk to one of the librarians, talk to their liaison, see what we can pull up that's already open access or available. And then we also got a grant to supplement open access and all that, to buy electronic resources. And there was stipulations. They had to use it for 2 years. It had to be an unlimited license, and we would prefer DRM rather than just a limited print. But, you know, can't have everything. So we got a grant, and it was for about $5,000. Well, we got enough faculty to jump in, thanks to our bookstore on campus, who really made a couple of our faculty members mad. And they came down with steam coming out of their ears and said, okay, what do I got to do? So we started with those two, and we went completely OER with them. But we did spend some money. And then they told others, and they told others. So by the second semester, we had ran out of our money. And we're like, oops, we didn't ask for enough. So we were able, with the new fiscal year, to ask for more money, and we were granted more money, enough to probably get us through 5 semesters. We're getting real close to our limit for this semester already, because we started grabbing those new faculty members that came in and saying, hey, we have this program. And they're like, oh, that's so awesome. These are the books I need. This is what I'm using. I'm not using a textbook. I'm using this. So it makes it easier for us to help them. We just had one of the faculty members that we did this for. He came in the other day to pick something up, and I was talking to him, and he says, yeah. He goes, I had a faculty member come in to evaluate me as I was teaching my class, and he was so impressed that the students were so up on everything. And I said, because they have easy access to it. So since this program is so new, this year is the baseline. So we'll look at data collection, and of course, we're going to look at the number of courses we transformed, how much it impacted the students, what was the cost savings, did their grades improve, and were the faculty members more acceptable to everything? So that's a short rundown of this. I'll be around for a little bit if you have more questions, or you can find us at the Citadel and just email us. So next.
Sorry, I'm a Mac user. Give me just a second. All right. Hi, everybody. Is that going to work? Yes. Okay. Hi, I am Sarah McClung. I am the head of collection development at UC San Francisco, and I am here to talk really fast at you about a case study improving a community of practice. So first, I want to give you some background on MLA, and it's not that MLA, it's the other MLA, which is the Medical Library Association. And we have members, over 2,500 members, coming from all different sectors. So we've got academic, hospital, federal, you name it, libraries, library professionals focused on health sciences in particular. Within MLA, we have different caucuses. So these are groups of professionals interested in the same themes, activities, services, that sort of thing that touches on health sciences librarianship. The caucus I want to talk to you about today is the Collection Development Caucus. It's one of 41 at MLA. And as of last week, we had almost 300 members. This may be a familiar feeling or situation for you if you specialize at all in your work, but for health sciences collection development librarians, we're often the only person at our institution responsible for stewarding the collection. And so that can lead to feelings of professional isolation. And when you are starting to feel professionally isolated, you usually want to reach outside of your institution and look for other groups, other people who do similar work to you. So luckily, MLA has had this collection development group in different iterations since 1982, and a lot of folks who focus in on those health sciences collection development issues have really benefited from being a part of this community. Back in 2021, the caucus leadership started spearheading a couple of different projects to help reinvigorate community building within our caucus. I was a member of the leadership team for a few years. I was the chair of this caucus, so I was involved in these two projects. So first, I will mention the ebook that we wound up updating, and then we also started providing programming for our members in the shape of forums. So back in 2019, our caucus developed a document called the Collection Development Best Practices, and it received a lot of praise. I believe MLA gave it an award at one point. But after a few years, it was starting to show its age a little bit, and it needed to be updated and expanded upon. So after an entire year plus of writing and revision, we were able to publish the second edition of that ebook. We expanded it into an ebook, and it's published on an open educational resource platform. That was in 2023. This was spearheaded by two other caucus leadership members, Karen Gao from Virginia Commonwealth University and Iris Kovar-Goff from Michigan State. Next, I'll talk about the forums. So in 2022, the caucus leadership started talking about providing more programming to increase engagement across the membership. So when I became chair in 2023, I decided to make this a regular occurrence. So the purpose of the forums was to create a space for librarians to discuss our issues, our challenges, start brainstorming potential solutions. These were very casual. They were free, open to everybody, not just caucus members, not just MLA members. If you wanted to come on board, we were happy to have you. And we did not record these conversations to increase transparency, honesty, just people want to talk about things, so we let them. The forum discussions, they led to regular publication updates in the ebook, as well as some new sections. So it was a very nice kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a symbiotic relationship, where the topics that we discussed at the forum were based on the ebook sections, and then the conversations we had going at the forums then went back to the ebook and got it updated and expanded the ebook further. From mid-2023 to 2025, we hosted 15 of these forums, and our average attendance was about 40. So we were really, really happy with that. We intentionally picked topics that went outside of collection development. So we wanted folks from all the other caucuses to join us in these conversations because, as you know, we don't do our work in a vacuum. So we intentionally chose topics that appealed to the hospital librarian caucus or the data services caucus to increase just that conversation and get those ideas flowing, cross-pollinating across MLA. We wound up doing an assessment. So in May, my co-investigators and I, Karen and Iris, we sent out a survey to our membership, and about 11% of our members responded to that. And we were testing a lot of assumptions that we had about the work that we were doing and that sense of professional isolation that I mentioned before. We had the survey respondents coming in at 86%, saying that they did feel a sense of professional isolation. Of those, 82 stated that the caucus significantly or somewhat reduced that feeling. So we were right on the money. We were doing good work and we were making impacts for them. I'm including information here about, increasing a sense of community. 85% agreed or strongly agreed that we do create a sense of community for those collection development folks. For the ebook, 80% either knew of, used, or referenced that new edition, and 81% found it very useful or useful. And then lastly, those forums. Out of those respondents, 66 said that they regularly or occasionally attended them, and all of them, 100% of those respondents said that they found them to be very or somewhat valuable. So I wanted to share that with you in case you're part of a group and you are looking to increase your engagement, provide resources for your members. So here's some ideas. If you want to know more about this, we are going to be publishing a case study next year in this book about communities of practice. So thank you so much.
Next up will be May and Yang.
Great. Okay, hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this presentation on sustainable support for digital scholarship through library press partnerships. My name is May Velosa-Lyons, and this is my colleague Yang Li. The program we're discussing today was developed in response to a need from our faculty authors in the humanities. They frequently come up against the limitations of what's possible in the conventional scholarly monograph when they reach the point of publishing their work. For example, they want to add large numbers of complex archival images, dynamic zoomable maps, audio or video content, or numerous appendices that presses don't want to print. And while these would all be possible in a digital book format without much technical complexity, scholarly presses often shy away from offering this due to expense or preservation concerns or limited technical expertise. So our suggestion is that this work can take place in the university library in a three-way partnership between the library, the author, and the press, which allows each of them to focus on their respective strengths. The author produces the scholarship, the press produces the standard monograph, and we work with both of them to build out an enhanced digital edition. This has an advantage over a companion site because it integrates additional materials and functionality directly into the book. So here's a simplified diagram of what that three-way collaboration can look like. In Emory's case, we have a digital scholarship center, but we could also see this work happening in a research services center or scholarly communications team within the library. So one thing to note is that the program at Emory is part of a broader effort to support open access research publishing in the humanities, but we don't believe it requires open access to work, and our digital scholarship center has worked on some non-open projects, even though that isn't our primary mode. So we've been undertaking this work at Emory for almost 10 years and have learned along the way that there are two key elements for making it sustainable. The first is streamlining technical support to a menu of options that serves the most frequent needs of our authors. That means minimizing custom work that isn't reusable and focusing on technical solutions that are easy to learn by staff and students. We've limited ourselves to just two digital publishing platforms among the many that are out there. And those are Manifold, developed by the University of Minnesota Press, and Quire, developed by Getty. And two, establishing a workflow for the partnership that can be consistently applied with each different partner press and author, allowing for advanced planning around capacity as new projects come on board. So here is what our workflow looks like, and I'd be happy to answer more questions about it in the Q&A. But here to talk through a few examples is my colleague Yang Li.
Thank you, May. I am Yang Li, a software engineer and information designer with Emory University. So let me briefly share 3 examples that show how this works in practice. As I do so, you're welcome to see these digital editions for yourself by scanning the QR code on the book cover. So the first example is Kristen Witland, who is a music theory scholar at Emory. Her book project included archival documents and original video materials that couldn't translate well to print. We partnered with SUNY Press, who published her book Open Access and granted us the rights to produce an enhanced edition, which was subject to the press review. Through the support of Emory Center for Digital Scholarship, Professor Witland was able to enrich her book with high-quality, detailed video demonstrations, which support her scholarly argument, and with digitized material from Indian and UK archives that are otherwise inaccessible to scholars. Next up, we have Scott Kugel, who is an Islamic studies professor at Emory. His digital project incorporated translations of substantial primary sources as well as original videos of musical performances. As in Professor Witland's case, we partnered with UNC Press, who granted us the exclusive rights to produce an enhanced edition that would simultaneously be released with the standard edition. The last example is Rachel Hall Clifford, who is a medical anthropologist at Emory. Her book was published open access by MIT Press last year, and she was interested in producing a Spanish language edition that would be accessible to the communities of healthcare workers and health policy professionals she works with in Central America. MIT agreed to grant us the rights to produce and release a Spanish language translation in Manifold. That process has since inspired other faculty at Emory University to pursue the release of translations of scholarship through a similar workflow. So together, these collaborations demonstrate how a library-based digital scholarship center can serve as a bridge and an empowerment hub between faculty creativity and press publishing infrastructures. We have iterated this model on other digital projects and built a sustainable model for publishing media-rich, interactive scholarship that enhances reader experience, accessibility, and sustainability. Finally, we would also like to thank our sponsors. Thank you.
While I'm bringing this up, my name is Martha Higgins. I'm with the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And unfortunately, Mary Ellen is not able to join me today. Okay. So 23 years ago, the World Health Organization and a coalition of publishers established Research for Life with the goal of closing the knowledge gap between high and lower income countries. This partnership now encompasses several UN agencies, the World Intellectual Property Organization, 2 academic libraries, and more than 200 international publishers. Thank you. The Research for Life partnerships have responded to requests to develop in-person and online opportunities to foster the use of provided content and tools, as well as developing and improving authorship skills. Part of the mission of Research for Life is to enable reciprocal knowledge exchange between low and high income countries, not just the one way that we're all used to, from high to low. Studies have shown that lowering the cost barrier can lead to more scientific production and publishing, which is part of the UN Sustainable Goals. Today, more than 12,000 local not-for-profit institutions across 125 countries have access to an expansive collection of peer-reviewed content, comprising more than 200,000 open and subscribed resources. Countries are divided into low income, which get free access, and middle income, in which resources are offered at a very reduced pricing. Despite the progress made so far, awareness gaps and engagement gaps are still significant. Oops, sorry. Go back. A lack of awareness. When I was in Kosovo as a Fulbright specialist, They told me they didn't have any databases, and yet they were part of this group and didn't know they were part of this group, which is often the case, unfortunately. So working with ministries of education in all countries may be the key to unlocking awareness and spreading influence, as well as conferences like this and people like you. So think about this statistic. Low and middle income countries are home to 85% of the world's population, but comprise less than 1% of researchers. It's actually 0.2% of researchers. So these numbers are from early 2024 and are pretty impressive that so much has been accomplished, but there's still a lot more to do. The scholarly communication environment is not a level playing field across the world, as I'm sure we all know. This study by the World Intellectual Property Organization and partners highlights the impact of Research for Life quantitatively, noting a 75% increase in scientific output and 20% rise in involvement in clinical trials. That's enormous. Researchers in the medical field tend to target diseases that affect their local population and may be overlooked by researchers abroad. Enabling access to current research may help innovation in neglected diseases by connecting local teams to the global knowledge base. Certain illnesses in developing countries may receive very little research attention because the populations affected are too poor to be of commercial use. Research for Life access positively impacts gender equity in science, increasing the share of women authors, their collaborations, and the impact of their publications. The study cited here states that by analyzing the labor division within international collaborations, they demonstrated that researchers from less developed countries face systemic disadvantages, which not only limit their contributions to the global scientific community, but also prevent them from fully benefiting from international collaborations. Researchers from scientifically advanced countries occupy the leading roles, while researchers from LMIC are relegated to the supporting roles. This slide demonstrates some metrics that show publication growth and impact by using those targeted initiatives, such as author and librarian hubs that include training materials for librarians, scientists, researchers, and students. In 2022, the Country Connectors program was started, which established to increase awareness about these resources that are available. There's also a publisher training. This is great because if institutions want to start their own journals, the good practices in scientific communications, predatory practices, AI ethics, and scholarly publishing are all taught in conjunction with the DOAJ. Here is a bibliography and a special thank you to the writers of the report. And if you have any interest in joining the Research for Life Academic Alliance, you can use the contact form on the QR code or feel free to email me. And we're also currently working with some LIS schools about the possibilities of internships or practicums. So if you know any library schools that might be interested, please let us know.
Oh, sorry, it's going to take me a while to get out of this. Again, I'm a Mac user, so I don't know how to find it now. Oh, the X. Yes, now I can see it. You just have to know where to click. Yes, no, I've noticed that, that we both have trouble. So my name is Jill Powell. I'm recently retired from Cornell University, and I'm going to talk to you about lantern slides in the archive, unlocking hidden resources for research and teaching. Now, they are called lantern slides because they are images that are on glass plates that are about 4 inches by 3 inches, and they're projected on a machine that was called a magic lantern. This was before 35 millimeter slides came out, so it's an older technology. And I was very fortunate to get 425 of these slides donated to me by a professor in mechanical and aerospace engineering. So these were used in the classroom in the early 1920s to teach engineering students about machines, hiring practices, industrial and labor relations. So I applied for a research grant to get these digitized because I knew people weren't going to go over and look at them in the archives. And you can find these in JSTOR on the left. That's the title of the collection. And on the right, it's also the same collection as in our Cornell digital collections. The grant, I was turned down the first time I applied for the grant, but the next year it was approved. It was an internal grant worth about, I think, $12,000 or $13,000. So here's an example of one of the slides. I think it's fascinating. They're teaching students here how to make your employees happy and productive is to have a traveling library show up in the noon hour. And it's neat to see not only people looking at the books, but you see those tall belts that go up to the ceiling. That's because everybody's machine in this machine shop was operated by one large machine out in the outside that was probably operated by water power or steam power. And that powered all of these individual machines that they were using inside to make things. And here's another one. Calisthenics, National Cash Register. Everybody has to do them all at once. It's kind of neat if we all had to do this. And again, I love looking at the detail in the factory itself. And then they're very disturbing slides in here. So they're focused on productivity. They don't care so much about health and safety. They're into exploitation. In this particular example, they're looking at the human fatigue of the finger to see how much work they can get out of you. And on the right side, this picture, the HIM stands for Human Interaction Management. They're looking at the effect of noise on someone's productivity. And when I read this book, which is detailed at the bottom, the author is listed there, they found that loud noises instilled fear in people and got them to work faster. And then these slides are about physiognomy and phrenology. This is Napoleon right here, but there are pictures in there of noses and the size of your lips and your hair and your forehead. And it's like, how could they possibly believe this? But there's actually a book written on this, mapping people's parts of their brain to intelligence and personality traits. And then there's some fun slides. I like these imperial measurements. So the origin of inch, yard, foot, and rod. This was imperial. So King Henry I in the 16th century declared that from the measurement from his nose to the end of his thumb was a yard, which we still use today. And on the right side, a rod, he's measuring the left foot of 16 men lined up as they left church on a Sunday morning. So that was like 16 and a half feet. So I was involved with entering in the metadata. I wanted to show the fun things first, but I was responsible for entering in all of these fields for the 400 slides. And I got help from people, especially machinists that worked in our machine shops, were really helpful to me to identify some of the milling machines. And I got training from metadata specialists in my library who I knew about LCSH, obviously, but I didn't know how to standardize, say, place names, and I learned about Getty, and then work types. So, you know, do I say it's a diagram or a chart or a bar graph, those kinds of things. It took me about 5 minutes per slide, 4 to 5 months, but then I was working on the project for about 2 years. And in this particular slide, I really loved Google Lens. If you haven't heard of it before, it helps you identify a possible source of it for the image. And it's giving you examples here on the right as, you know, maybe Wikipedia, or it might be a manufacturer's catalog. And he's not making donuts in this picture. He is using a turret lathe to make maybe wheel bearings. They made a lot of parts for torpedoes and automobiles. This was wartime also for these machines shops. And in this particular slide, I just found it was fascinating because this is a field in Detroit full of automobile roofs. If you think about the early, say the 1920s, everybody wanted to buy their first car. And not only their first car, but their first washing machine, refrigerator, and those kinds of things. So they were just ramping up all this production. And I think this is like a robot in the middle, something automated that in this book I read for this picture, they said there was 1 million automobile roofs to make a Model T Ford sitting in this place. And just a reminder that these are in JSTOR or the Cornell Digital Collections.